All right, hello and welcome back, everybody. Today we are looking at Chapter 3, Section 3.2. So in today's lesson, we're going to look at some of the alliances that Native Americans formed. First, we're going to look at some of the clashes amongst cultures, because remember, Native Americans tribes each have their own set of cultures and customs and things, and those don't always go super duper well together. Then we're going to look a little bit deeper at some alliances that were formed, and then look at some united Native American groups. Louis is coming up to say hi, as per the usual. Hi, buddy. Hi. He says hello. Our main idea for the section is that the Iroquois Confederacy consisted of 5 tribes that worked together to defeat other Native American tribes as well as the French.
Meow.
Yes, thank you, Louis.
Meow.
So as white colonists continued to move into New England and the Middle Colonies, 2 groups of Native Americans began to feel increasingly threatened by their presence. One group that banded together was the Algonquin. It consisted of tribes who lived along the Atlantic coast and spoke similar languages. The Pequot tribe resided in New England, the Lenape inhabited the region that became the Middle Colonies, and the Algonquin were hunters and gatherers. While they also fished and planted crops, they moved each season to follow the supply of food and lived in temporary camps while farther away from their villages. So historically, the Algonquin were the enemies of another united group of tribes named the Iroquois. The Iroquois lived in what is currently central New York State. The French gave these Native Americans the name Iroquois, but they called themselves the Haudenosaunee, Haudenosaunee, which translates to people of the Longhouse. Goodness gracious, Louis. Sorry, people of the Longhouse for the style of home that they built and lived in with their families. So the arrival of colonists from Europe added another source of tension to the region. Yet another wave of settlers was now occupying disputed tribal territories, disrupting their hunting grounds, communities, and sacred sites. So even before Europeans began to colonize and claim lands in North America, conflicts amongst different groups of Native Americans led some of them to form alliances or agreements with each other. One of the most important alliances was the Iroquois Confederacy. A confederacy is an agreement among several groups to protect and support one another in battle or other endeavors. In about 1600, the Iroquois Confederacy joined together 5 tribes: the Mohawk, Onondaga, Oneida, Cayuga, and Seneca, ending their fighting that had once raged among them. The addition of the Tuscarora around 120 years later in 1720 would change the Confederacy's name to the Six Nations. By banding together, Native Americans had the goal to protect their lands and to prevent future strife, but they also formed alliances with the French and British at different times. The alliances changed quite frequently. Sometimes Native Americans even worked to pit the French, British, and colonists from other countries against one another. The Iroquois, the Mohawk in particular, often traded furs with the Dutch and British settlers in exchange for firearms. In this way, the trading partners came to rely on each other, and they supported each other in battle. Likewise, the Lenape and the Huron, both enemies of the Iroquois, allied with the French. Battles continued between the French and Iroquois because they both wanted to control the fur trade. Due to high demand for their fur and overhunting, beavers became scarce in the East by the mid-1600s. So as a result, the Iroquois Confederacy moved west to gain greater access to beavers in the region, warring with competing tribes along the way. The Iroquois also attacked New France in the north, hoping to end French fur trading in the Ohio Valley and beyond. So in 1689, the Iroquois attacked the settlement of Lachine near Montreal in present-day Canada. The attack was in response to a raid 2 years earlier in which the French had destroyed Iroquois corn. The Iroquois killed about 250 settlers and also burned the settlement. After this, a lot of back-and-forth retaliation followed until both sides grew weary of conflict. The weakened Iroquois made peace, and in 1701, they signed a treaty of neutrality in which they agreed not to take sides in future wars. Unfortunately, the conflict over land and furs was to grow even more. All right, so a couple things important to remember from the section. Native Americans created alliances to work together and maintain peace. One of the biggest ones, or like the most impactful ones in the area that we're looking at with the 13 colonies, was the Six Nations. And this was a large, well known group of Native Americans in the area. All right, guys, thank you guys for listening. Louis says bye. Go ahead and check back in Canvas to see what your next job is, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.